I think we'll get started. Sorry for those waiting online. Sorry for the delay. We had people go to different offices. We had a little confusion on the location of the meeting, but I think we'll start. And if anyone shows up in a few minutes, that'll be fine. I'm Brett Prevedel, current chair of this Uintah Watershed Council. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting for Tuesday, May 13th. And we'll just take a moment and go around the table and introduce ourselves for those that don't know us. And then we'll go online and do the same. I already mentioned I'm Brett Prevedel. Go this way.
Jeff Crozier, vice chair, I guess, of the Watershed Council.
And I'm William Merkley with the Water Conservancy District.
Clyde Watkins, Houston County Water Conservancy.
Jax Winterton, Moon Lake Water Users.
Steve Hanberg, ag producer here in Uintah County.
Carly Payne, Watershed Council's coordinator.
I'm Steph McGinnis, Division of Water Resources, State Water Plan Manager.
Thank you. Is that everybody that I could see there?
I believe so.
Okay, Galen, would you start?
Well, I don't know. Am I on?
Yes, we hear you. Good.
Oh, good. Gaywin Snow. Poor boy farmer.
Olga, would you be next, please?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm with the Division of Water Resources. I'm just here observing.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Heidi?
Hi, I'm with the Division of Water Resources. I'm a conservation coordinator, and I'm the alternate area specialist for this council.
Thank you. Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine Osborne. I'm with the Division of Water Quality, and I'm the Uintah Basin Coordinator.
Great. Becca?
Hi, I'm Becca Free. I'm also with the Division of Water Resources, and I work with Steph on the state water plan. So I'm a state water plan specialist.
Okay, great. Is there anyone else online that I can't see? Okay, Peggy, would you introduce yourself?
I'm Peggy Killian on the Uintah Watershed.
Thank you. With that, I don't know that we have any general public. I think everybody's involved in the watershed. If there is anyone here where it's public meeting, please, this is an opportunity for public comments. Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the plan, and it's the discussion of the state water plan and what involvement our watershed council and other watershed councils will have. And we're pleased to have Stephanie McGinnis here with us today to make that presentation and answer questions afterward.
Thank you all for having me. I have some slides prepared. It's pretty quick. I'm thinking maybe 15 minutes to run through them, just to give you sort of a broad overview and kind of talk about how I'm hoping we can work together on the state water plan. Feel free to stop, interrupt me at any time. And then with whatever time afterwards, if you all have questions or want to talk about anything in detail, we can do that. Let me share my screen. So I want to cover just a couple of things that are new. There was some legislation that was passed in 2024. And so I want to talk about that, talk about just sort of the broad overview of the development of the state water plan, the timeline, and also how we're engaging with you, with other watershed councils, and the public in general. If you are looking for some light reading, here is the actual code for the state water plan. But there's a couple of items that I'd like to touch on that I think are important as we move forward. The first one deals with the frequency of updates. The code now calls for the state water plan to be updated no less frequently than every 10 years. within the Division of Water Resources, we do have an internal goal to be updating the plan more like every 5 years. And so we've had sort of 3 iterations of the plan, the first one being in 1990, the most recent one in 2021. And have any of you taken a look at any of the state water plans, the most recent? Okay. Perfect. We'll do things a little bit differently in this upcoming plan. And then as we move into future iterations, we're hoping to make this plan a little bit more dynamic so that we can update things more in real time and have a better way for people to see kind of the goals that are being set and if they're being met. The other thing that's been called out in that House Bill 280 that was passed in 2024 legislative session is increased collaboration. At the state level, there are specific entities that are called out, and these are the groups that we are working with. And it's worth noting here that within the Department of Natural Resources, as well as Department of Environmental Quality, there are several divisions within both of those departments that we're working with in the development of the plan. At the local level, of course, we're working with you all. We also are working with the Water Conservancy districts, and Director Hassenjager has sent out an email asking that Conservancy districts work with their watershed councils as we're sort of working on the formulation of the plan. But certainly Conservancy districts are welcome to reach out if they would like to have any sort of contact with us directly. We're happy to do that. And these entities that are called out, these are not the only entities that we'll be working with as we develop the plan, but these are the ones that are specifically stated in code. And if you've never taken a look at the state water plan and just kind of some high level overview of what we're hoping to accomplish with the 2026 plan, we'd like this to be a strategic framework where we're outlining some strategies and actionable steps at the individual, local, and state level. We'll be identifying water resources and some strategies on how we might be able to manage those now, and also as we're looking into future, dealing with those challenges. And really the goal is to be supporting communities, agriculture, and also the environment. And this is just some text that was cut and pasted from the 2021 plan. And really, I just want to highlight the fact that, you know, the water landscape that we're living in, it's not static. We've experienced a lot of drought in recent years. And we've also seen in 2022 into the winter of 2023, a record-setting snowpack here in Utah. And certainly when we talk about Colorado River Basin, we're worried about dwindling supply and what that means for storage. So this whole plan, if you've taken a look at the outline, we've packaged this into 9 chapters, and the outline is pretty lengthy. It's about 5 pages, and we are trying to put a whole lot of information in these 9 chapters. We're aiming for a length of approximately 150 pages total for the state water plan. So again, really strategic about what we need to put in here and where we're hoping to get your input and help on what we should really be focusing on and highlighting. And just to give you a little bit of the framework here, in my eyes, chapter 2, 3, and 4 are really kind of outlining those constraints. So we don't have a lot of control of how much rain and snow we get in Utah. We have some ideas of what some of our future challenges might be, but there's a bit of uncertainty, especially the further we go out into time. And then with chapter 4, we've got a lot of laws and policies and compacts and decrees, all of those things. And within those constraints, how can we best support our communities, agriculture, and environment? And so these 3 chapter titles here, they may look somewhat familiar. These are aligning to some degree with the Governor's 2022 Coordinated Action Plan for Water. And keep these in mind as we talk about another chapter in particular. These are sort of some broad topics that we're hoping we can work within when we talk about chapter 8, this Basin Perspective chapter. What we'd really like to do here is work with each of the watershed councils to make sure that we can present what are the challenges, what are the needs, what are some successes within the basin, and put that into this chapter. And we'll be asking as we go through this to be thinking about those 3 categories, the communities, the agriculture, and the environment. So with this chapter, again, we're really focusing in on what are the challenges here? What are maybe the solutions to those problems? And what's a success that we might be able to highlight that's happened in the recent past or is in the works right now? So to get at all of those topics, we'll be sending out a survey. I can get that out to you tomorrow. And this survey, I don't see it taking more than about 20 minutes to complete. Some of you might get through faster, but our ask is that you'll take 20 minutes of your time to fill this survey out and help us with those topics. I want to give you an example. So if you can kind of understand, again, we have 150 pages total. So how we might take your input and sort of scale those up into larger themes. This is just a generic example that I'm showing to all of the watershed councils. And there's a lot of information here, talking about aquifer decline. And with this information, I think this is really valuable. And I think this is something that the council might be able to use as you think about issues and things that you might work on in the future. But for the state water plan, we'll be trying to take this information and we'll be trying to sort of scale it up into larger themes. So for the challenge here, we might not share all of that information, but we might sort of couch this in the broader topic of there are issues with declining groundwater levels, aquifer depletion, and what might be some of the needs. Maybe we need to better understand what the rate and the sources of recharge are, possibly look at a feasibility study. So just so you can kind of understand, that's how we would start to sort of scale those up into more of themes. Here's another example. This one, again, thinking about those three topics, I see this one as having really sort of two parts. We've got infrastructure with maybe some water quality standards being exceeded. So I would see that more in the sort of vibrant communities chapter. But then the second part of this, talking about increased temperatures in the stream, possible issues for threatened species, I would see that going in more of that environment category. With the survey, we'll also ask if you're willing to provide your name and your email and if we can follow up with you. And this would be a great example of why I would really like to be able to follow up with you, because if you're talking about a creek and a threatened species, we probably want to get more details. What creek, what threatened species? So hoping that we can work with you on that. And this is how we would sort of start to scale those challenges and needs up. We talk about aging infrastructure, water quality concerns. A need would be funding to update that infrastructure, maybe some better management tools to deal with those temp extremes. And just a little side tangent here is, you know, if I have funding listed here as a need, and I know every single council needs funding for projects. Hopefully the Unified Water Infrastructure Plan is not news to you at this point. This is really the place to be putting all of those projects in for submission. And I did leave the submission for these projects did close for this round last Friday. So hopefully y'all didn't miss that deadline. It will open up on an annual basis where you can submit more projects. But this would be the place to put all of your projects. In the state water plan, we will reference the UWIP. You know, we might be able to do some sort of broad references of the amount of funding that's needed for this area. And if you would like to know information, if you haven't heard about the UWIP yet, this is a QR code where you can access that to get more information. And if you have a lot of questions, I can also, Carly or I can connect you with the folks that are in charge.
So the only comment that Clyde and I were just discussing is we both submitted last Friday, but there was no real confirmation that the information had been received.
Oh.
And so, did you get an email?
He got an email, but that's.
So that
But
means
a different project.
maybe Clyde and I did something incorrect, but
Yes.
just some sort of notification that said
Received.
received, and so that we know that we've met the deadline.
Okay.
When I had submitted, said that was confirmed, I did, but there was nothing.
Yeah, there was a confirmed,
I confirmed.
which was the last online page.
Exactly.
But there was never any sort of feedback. But you said you got an email?
I don't know if they sent it to the email or if they did the online submission.
But you did that online submission, did you not?
Well, I had like Jones in the middle. Put together something for us.
On Jones and the Hills part, I got a confirmation, but on what we done, no, I didn't get a confirmation.
Is it wasn't from Jones in the middle, it was from. Then it came back. I think they might have just submitted.
Just recognizes the importance of having your projects on the list. We were just a little stressed.
Yeah, understandably. We can follow up on that and get back
Please do.
to you. And then we can also just share with them that it might be nice when you submit to get some sort of clear confirmation of, yes, we received that, because I understand that you're.
And Clyde, your submission is wholly inadequate.
Yes. No, it's an answer. Right? Yes, rejected.
Yeah, we can definitely follow up on and get back to you later this week on that.
Future will probably become more apparent, I would think, because they get it.
And that's probably just some
Compile
great
it.
feedback to, hey, people,
But,
I mean,
yeah,
this is
it
a big
is.
deal and you want to know for sure that your submission made it through and didn't get lost spinning out there from there. So I hear you on that. We'll follow up with you.
I took a picture with my phone of the last submit, just in case.
Say, hey, I know.
Like,
it's
I
made,
received this.
Whatever, but
Candace, crying out loud.
yeah, no, that's a great point. Okay, so off the tangent from the UF, but I just want to make sure that we're all kind of clear on sort of the difference and what the state water plan will be highlighting. So it won't be those sort of line item of the, 20 projects that came in from this basin, but we will be referencing it. So it's important to kind of hit it from both angles. So we'll also want to highlight a success if there's something that we can highlight here that's been a great project people are proud of and would like to put in the state water plan. So as far as engagement, this is a pretty sort of bare bones timeline. We've got some more milestones, but these are kind of the key ones that I think that will be important for you all. Right now, we're meeting with all of the councils. I think we have 2 or 3 councils left to meet with, but we're hoping to meet with them before June is out. And then we are wanting to hold public scoping meetings, one in each basin. And so I'll talk on that a little bit more in just a moment. And then you'll notice that there's really nothing on this timeline from sort of this summer, early fall until next summer, 2026. So during that, 10 to 12 months, we'll just be working really hard to take your feedback, take the feedback from the public and from our agency partners and write that entire plan. So this is a pretty lofty goal. But statute calls that the next plan must be published by December of 2026. So unfortunately, we don't have the leisure of more time. And so you'll see how that kind of influences some of our asks to collaborate with you all. So next time around, we'll have more like 5 years. It'll be a lot easier to sort of spread this work out a bit. But that's kind of the base of kind of what we're trying to do between now and December. So here's an overview of what I see as what the division, what we're asking the council and seeing if we can get you to work with us on the state water plan. First of all, we would love it for every watershed council member to take the survey. If you have colleagues that are not on the watershed council, but you think that their input would be really valuable, so if you'd like to sort of target certain individuals, please feel free to forward that survey along to them. The first question in the survey will ask if you're an official member of the watershed council or a liaison. And so, you can send that out to other folks and they'll just click no. My only ask is that you just please don't share this on social media. Otherwise we'll get swamped with all sorts of comments and there'll be a time later in the process here very soon. So that July, August, September, we'll target feedback from the public. But you all work with a lot of other great people that might have great feedback for us. And we really are just starting on the writing process. So your responses really will help us to shape the overall plan direction, as well as, again, that basin perspective chapter. Please don't leave it in my hands to decide what's important here in this basin. I really rely on you all as with your expertise here in the basin to help craft that part of the plan. I'll talk in a moment about a subcommittee. really hoping that a couple of you will help to just take a little bit more of a role in the state water plan and help us with that. And then once we work with these subcommittees that I'll talk in a moment, we'll send this back out to the entire council and talk about the survey results and see if everyone on the council feels like their thoughts, concerns have been addressed as we sort of condense those survey results down. But also ask that you all would help us when we get ready for the public scoping meeting, that you'll share that information out through your networks and also help inform us of people we might want to reach out to help spread the word. And of course, as we get these drafts ready of the state water plan, hoping that you all can take a look and provide feedback on that.
But you are going to offer out to all the public to be able to have
Yes,
some
absolutely.
input.
They'll have another survey, so that's why I'm asking this one. It's great if you know some folks that you'd like to send it to, but yeah, sort of that mass public. There'll be it'll be a lot of the same questions, but it'll be a little bit of a different package for that survey, but we'll share that out during the public scoping meeting. Yeah. And then we'd ask that you all share that out as well. Besides just the information of hopefully they can come in person, but if not, to be able to fill that survey out. So the subcommittees, and please, if you have questions asked, I want to make sure, I know you all would probably like to think about this for a minute to see if you would like to be part of the subcommittee. My hope is that this is not a heavy lift ask. The division can do all of the heavy lifting. I'm hoping that these asks are just light lifts for a couple of folks, but it would be really great to have some help looking at those survey results and having just a couple of folks on the Watershed Council form a subcommittee, take a look at those and kind of help us synthesize those. And then we'd ask that you send that back out. Once we synthesize those, send that to the council and make sure that everyone feels like, you know, the mark has been hit with what those challenges, needs and success are. And then I don't see a lot of meetings with me or with Becca, but we might need to set up a remote meeting or two just to talk about it. Unless there's writers in the group, Becca and I are happy to just sort of take your feedback, some bullet points, and we can write that material and then send it back out to you and say, hey, did you get the mark? But if we have any writers in the group, you are welcome to join the group and also this. But that's really kind of what I'm thinking is that, you know, rather than emails, it might be easier to just have a meeting. And then we also would ask in this subcommittee, once we write that material, that you're sort of providing that initial review before we send it out for the group, just get kind of the subcommittee's thoughts. Any questions on this? I think that this is probably a slightly bigger ask than the next ask for the public scoping meeting, but any questions here? And I will say that the timeline, if you're wondering what's the timeline, now is sort of the timeline. So again, we'll send the survey out tomorrow. We'll give you like a week and a half to get that filled out. If we don't have any survey responses, I'll probably be contacting some folks and saying, hey, can you help us kind of get everyone excited about filling out the survey. Again, it should only be about 20 minutes. But once we have that, we'll be reaching out to that subcommittee to start kind of working on that. And we'll try to kind of work with your timeline. But again, we're on a fairly tight timeline here to sort of get this ready. We don't need this material totally polished by that public scoping meeting. But I think when we come out here, it'll be really important to start touching on the topics that you all have identified in the survey.
I have a
Sure.
question. So the statewide plan, where there's varying priorities in the different regions, is it split geographically or is it going to be split kind of like our watershed councils?
Yeah, so we'll have a chapter that's just broadly like the productive agriculture chapter. That will be statewide. We'll touch on certain things because obviously there's differences, northern versus southern part of the state. And so we'll touch on that. But in chapter 8, in that basin perspective, is where we would really drill into sort of those, I don't want to say less generic, but yeah, less generic sort of topics. So we'll have some broad stuff about ag. And so that'll be something to look at as we talk about what you all have identified as issues in your basin, because if we've addressed it elsewhere in the plan, we probably don't want to spend time I mean, it's kind of a spoiler alert, but with that 150 pages, we'll really only have about 2 to 3 pages for your basin. We've got 11. So that's already right there, a big chunk of the state water plan. But I think it's really important that we get down into more of that local level. So we'll have to be strategic about how we package the information. So if something has been addressed in a previous chapter, we might want to refer to it, but I don't think we want to take up space in your chapter. Really, I think we really want to talk about what's unique here, up here in this basin.
Thanks. Get 2 paragraphs.
Maybe 3.
So
Yeah, but-
very concise.
And we'll work together on how we want to package this, because it will be, it'll be challenging when you look at some of the other state water plans out there in the nation. I think some groups have done some really good work of how they package that material. And so I think we can do this in a couple of pages. Obviously, we could write 150 pages on just this basin. So.
Well, I think this is a resource that's really important to everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter what entity you're in, it's important to everybody. And that's why I like that you're going to have public input, because there's a lot of people out there that, it's their livelihood, or it's the agriculture, or is it's industry, or, whatever it is, culinary. And so I think we need more than just one person's opinion. We need a whole lot of people's input, because sometimes some of us don't have skin in the game in certain areas and others do, and so we need as much input. So I like that you're getting public input.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And, again, I feel like we're a little bit rushed this time around, but next time we'll have more time. So, because we have had a lot of asks to do more than one public scoping meeting in a basin. And right now with the timeline and the stuff that we have, we won't be able to do that. So that'll be what we'll talk about in a moment, is how do we identify just one location of public scoping meeting. But I mean, Peggy, I think it's important that we try to get as much public input as we can. So that we
Public
can
input can be good if it's helpful, but
Yeah.
people that don't have anything invested, that make it tough on the people that do. I don't
Yeah,
agree
right.
with that.
Well, and we'll work with you all when we get, so again, this subcommittee will be looking at the results from this council and anyone that you've maybe targeted with, colleagues or other folks that we'll synthesize these, but we also will share all of the survey results with you. But I think just in the interest of time, the quickest way for us to get through this is to start with the subcommittee. But then we'll also, we can share out a lot of that public feedback that we get as well to see, okay, is it tracking what the public in this basin is saying are issues versus what you all are saying are issues? And like if we have any super large, just sort of gaps, it's something we probably should talk about, or, we should hand over to the council to talk about.
Well, and that's where the challenge is because one thing doesn't serve all, and so that's where it gets really challenging.
I think that'll be the whole challenge of the state water plan, right? We've got a lot of conflicting interests and it's really hard to prioritize which interest is the hard part. So it's, water's complicated. I mean, I think that's just the bottom line, right? Any other questions on this? Again, I don't expect this to be a heavy lift, but we will be trying to move fairly quickly with you all to at least have this information kind of figured out and vetted by the entire group before we get to that public scoping meeting, so that we can address those concepts and things in that public scoping meeting.
You said that you're in July.
July through September is what we're aiming for. So that would be something, we can always come back to this, but I'll just hop. So I think we're kind of jumping into the public scoping. Besides a location, like what's a good venue, and we're kind of along the same lines of free is really good if we can figure that out. But also what's just a good time, July, August, September. I don't know if there's ever a good time, and maybe winter would be better, but we don't have that luxury this time around. So, what can we identify that would work for all? We would also ask that if you're on this subcommittee, that you're helping us with sharing out that public scoping information. So making sure that it gets to the council members and that they ask the council members to spread that information through their networks. And then also, I mean, my hope is that you all can make it to the public scoping meeting. But if you're on the subcommittee, if you can make it, I think that's important. I think it's great to have that local watershed council representation there when we do this public meeting.
So just a quick question, because you're gonna do a survey and so you're gonna gather information, but I know when I attended the Utah Water Council meeting, they opened an invite of if you have ideas or different things, we can send those directly to the Utah Water Council. So as board members, because you know, it's hard to put everything on one survey and then all of a sudden you thought of something else and that, and so there was an invite there that we could send in stuff to the Utah Water Council as we're going through the plan and we're looking at things, because never can you capture everything in one thought. You have to think about things.
Are you officially commenting as a council, or are you talking about as individuals?
As a council or individual of council members, yeah.
So a couple of thoughts there. You'll have my contact information. I will also give you the state water plan email. That will also get to me. And I can also share, we do have a spot where you can sign up for email updates. You all will be in the loop as watershed council members, but it's something that you'll get that information as we kind of make progress. We'll be sending out. It's not going to be overwhelming. You know, it won't be like a weekly update, but we'll be sent as we get these sort of key milestones. We'll be sending out information.
So kind of each county's going to build their own watershed plan, which will add to the state plan. Is that kind of, because I kind of understood that from the meeting that I attended.
Each basin will create their own.
Such
plan. So,
watershed council will create.
yeah, so we'll be using the watershed basin boundaries, which it's a lot. It's a lot, right? I mean, there's even within this basin, there's possibly some different thoughts on what the issues are. So that's what I'm hoping with at least the start here is what are the themes that are coming up and can we sort of couch those into those themes?
Not to interrupt, but
Yeah.
if you need a public space, Clyde and I would be happy to sponsor it. But
Oh, that would be awesome.
the cost is
That would be great. Yeah.
75-25, just for the record.
Get that out in the recording.
I'll put that in the email to make sure your UIP plan got in. By the way, they're sponsored. No,
I think other things change as soon as it's not gonna hold.
That is, yeah, isn't it? It's not how it was like amongst us in at the table, but it changed as it went out.
That was broadcast.
It's called seizing the moment.
Yeah. I've seen that.
no, I appreciate that. That would be great.
Yeah, and wherever you want to hold it, whether it's to shake and
I think I would love to have your all feedback on that of where, you know, if I know it's not ideal to pick just one location, but unfortunately it's going to be kind of a skeleton crew. Myself and Becca will be dragging Carly along, hopefully, and some other staff members to help us really pull this off. But, you know, and I think in the future we can talk about, you know, would we need a different format? I really wanted to do the in-person with the public feedback because I think sometimes when you're sitting down with people, they'll sort of break out into tables. And I think you can get a lot more information from a conversation versus, you know, if we did a big statewide virtual, I mean, I just don't think it'll serve the basins and kind of what we're trying to get at with this, specifically with this chapter, but also we want your input overall in the state water plan. But if you're time limited, you really need to focus in on something. I think the survey with those chapter 8 questions would be important. So this is sort of the ask with this. I will be following up. So I'll have the email that I'll send with the survey that, again, if you want to just forward out to any colleagues that you think you would like to have weigh in. And then I will send a separate email that has the information for these subcommittees. And again, just like the survey, if we don't get responses, I'll probably, if we don't get any subcommittee volunteers, I'll probably be shamelessly pinging you all, begging for that. Because again, I don't think it's a good idea to leave it in our hands to decide what's important. So really appreciate everyone's thoughts and input on this. Any other questions on the public scoping? And again, if you have any thoughts that come up, you're welcome to reach out to me. You, Carly, knows exactly where to find me. But that's really all what I had for you all today. That's the state water plan email. that you can email, but you can also just reach me directly. The state water plan, that email is what we'll be sharing out when we're working with public, because there'll be Becca and myself sort of watching that email, so we'll have more eyeballs there for that. And I can send the slide deck out as well to y'all, in case you want to look anything over. Any questions on this or just general thoughts, feedback? I believe some of you have maybe had a chance to look over the outline, but if you haven't, it's a lot to look over.
So you'd mentioned some subcommittees and some involvement. Or you're just going to wait and have people just contact you directly if they were interested in that? Or we've already designated William as our Uintah Watershed Council point of contact, or the official member of the Watershed Plan Board, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and I scanned the QR code and signed up, so.
Yeah, so you can, I'll send the slide deck out so you can scan the QR code. You can also just email and say, I'd be willing to.
And just do it individually.
And then once we have a couple of folks, and I don't know, 2 people, 4 people, whatever you all think is best, is reasonable. And then once we have a couple of folks signed up for each subcommittee, I'll be reaching out to you to sort of follow up with an email of, okay, what are our next steps here? We have the survey results. So let's take a look at these and synthesize these. With the public scoping meeting, we can start on that anytime. So as soon as we have a couple of folks, I'll probably wait until the survey results come back, just in case there's anything that's mentioned in the survey that relates to the public scoping meeting. But I would like to get started with both subcommittees here in the next, 2 weeks. So we'll give you a week and a half if you can fill out that survey. And then shortly after that, I'll be reaching out and we'll sort of talk about the timeline and sort of what works for your schedule, and hopefully we can pull this off.
Well, while we're on this topic, I'd like to throw out one issue. We're all irrigation, water, a little bit of culinary people, and then there's Jeff, who's in the extraction industry. And with all the things you hear, whether the railroad goes in or doesn't, I mean, the potential impacts, the oil and gas industry could be as big an issue as all these other issues that we have a lot of resources already committed to, that the people in this room represent, and they're very active, but there's a lot of unknown on the other side. And I don't know if it's politically a taboo to look into the details of the water impacts or uses or whatever of the oil and gas, because it's being promoted so heavily, politically. But it's been brought to my attention several times on this, that we're in an ideal spot in this council, to kind of involve that. So somehow that topic, I feel, needs to be maybe not addressed, but at least highlighted that it exists. I'm sorry I didn't give you the chance to introduce yourself, Scott. Would you please do that?
I'm Representative Scott Chu, but I really like being Rancher Scott Chu. And I've got a few minutes to be here, so I'm glad I came. As far as your question about the oil field, we definitely need to keep them in mind, because there's a certain amount of water that winds up in that process as far as extracting the oil. And of course, with last year or 2 years ago, we passed a bill that allowed them to reuse production water and stuff, which was the question was that was permissible, and it's hopefully is going to limit the total amount of use that of fresh water. So it all ties together.
Oh, thank you. We took a tour last fall, and Jeff took us to some energy sites, and all us long-term water people that were on the tour, we had no idea. It was totally foreign to us, and it was a lot more water issues than we ever realized. And we appreciate you doing that, Jeff, and kind of highlighting that, because Jeff had told us about it, but until we actually saw it, it was just almost, you know, I don't want to call it a shock, but it was a real eye opener.
So I'd like to take you guys on it if you want to go or do something.
Yeah.
I had an experience anyway. We're not the same place because we moved on, but a little bit of hands-on so you can maybe understand it instead of just hear about it.
Yeah, I would actually love that. I would too. Yeah, state water plan will address energy and water, but I think getting into the specifics of what that means in the basin.
So I don't mean to butt in, but the legislature, the main body of the legislature has clue as to how much, you know, what it entails out here as far as the energy extraction, how much water intertwines with it. Yeah, it's an eye opener, and you know, Ron Winters and Mark Cattle and different ones are put on towards them. It helps when folks from other parts of the state see what it is, because they don't have a clue. Even like you say, a lot of us that are right here don't realize how much it actually intertwines.
And I don't think we understand the difference, because, you know, the areas, what works for in the big cities doesn't work for the smaller areas. And so, you know, we can't just say that we need this because it's gonna service Wasatch County or whatever. There are some of us in the outer areas that depend on this and have livelihoods too. And so we have to really look out for everybody, but which makes it complicated. But many times you always see that they do it for out in the outer areas, which really hurts us in the rural areas. I mean, in the big towns, Wasatch Front, all of that area, they put things into place, the legislation and all that, and it just kills our areas because we're not like that. You know, we're not like that.
And that's one of the things I'm hoping, you know, folks can see the value of the state water plan, that, you know, the plan is written for everyone. It's written for managers, it's written for the general public, but we really are focusing as well on writing this to the folks that are shaping and making policy. So this is an opportunity to sort of elevate those issues within the basin and be able to showcase that.
Right, with your energy, they haven't got their ruling back from the court yet, obviously, on the railroad. But they've already lined up the political that if courts are in favor of it, if enough of the judges are good at, and the ruling comes back, they've already set the political part up. They've already got the current administration came out and did a tour and is very much in favor of it and has made that very known. And once the court case is done, if it's in favor of it, other organizations can have a hard time shutting it down. Now you went higher up and got pushed that they need. It's going to happen if the court bill comes back in favor. You're going to see some kind of a push, right?
I think so.
And it's not, you know, it's not whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. It's a limited resource.
Exactly.
That is that's going to be stretched further. There's no other way to describe it. If we're water deficient now, and no different than cities having the culinary, you know, the domestic water demands. Out here it's others, but it's competing interests for the same water. And you know, when we're on Jeff's tour, all the water people are getting out their phone and doing that. Oh, that's enough water right here on this one well to water 90 acres.
Yeah.
Of alfalfa this year. This is only one well, you know, and you're looking around and the numbers, they get big in a hurry.
Yeah.
Well, and then we can all look at it in that way, because you can do the calculation on the Great Salt Lake, the amount of water that goes in, how much of that evaporates before it even gets into there. So there is the same scenario. I mean, it's evaporated.
It's even a bigger number.
Yeah. And so we're putting that water in there, but it's evaporated. And so where are you going to keep getting all this water to fill that up? It's complicated. Yeah.
Good luck on your task. Yeah.
Well, one thing like on the oil field is like we're already trying to do some of the reuse of the water to be able to produce water back down and reuse it. But there's so much daily production of water, which really the clean water standard in our state versus other states, our water is relatively clean compared to the produced water is relatively clean compared to standards of other states. And we need help because the volume of produced water is a way for regulation or standards to allow it to be reused downstream, meaning if there's a filtration process or whatever, and then put back to the stream or put back to agriculture use or whatever, some sort of treatment. But no one to this point has really wanted to step up and provide sideboards of what we can live with it and what the public can take the water back out and reuse it. And they're worried about the reuse, which I get it, but like it's still an ongoing produced water that I feel it could continue to be reused, but there's not a sideline or there's not sideboards to work within to try and create that.
The technologies that are the political will.
Right. Yep.
One other topic, maybe I'll just bring up, are you okay if I transition a little bit?
Yeah, no, this is very.
Some kind of
this is great
direction of the council. You know, I've had several members of this council, and I've had a lot of questions. Why did this council get created? And we can explain that through the legislation, and that there's several other councils, and maybe they're not as organized as the Uintah Basin, but the people in this room are part of organizations that are already doing a lot. And so this is more, we're still struggling. Maybe this is an exception, this oil and gas. People on this council are still struggling, but this is already being done by all these different entities. They all have boards, they're all active, and a huge amount of money accumulated in the basin that goes to good use on our projects. And so the actual need of this, the local need of this council is questioned quite often, because it's the tasks are already being fulfilled, the basic tasks. So let's get some projects, let's get going. There's already projects, going and being managed. So there's that comes up that we need to talk about on the general direction. And I know we're created legislatively, not suggesting we shouldn't exist, but we need to find our own identity. And I don't really know how to do that, one thing, but it's been asked of me, many times already over the last couple of years. Why are we're kind of recreating some existing structure here. And Scott and I've discussed it, several times, and we don't have a real good, clean direction. But the water plan will help, because now we can participate in something that's new, and it's not recreating something that Clyde and his board are already working on, I believe his board, all that. So just know that that's still a major topic out here, and we have really good members on the council, and they participate, but they're kind of scratching their heads or why didn't I just do this last night at the public hearing in Duchesne County? Yeah. And so that comes up often. Do you have any? I didn't mean to cut you off, or do you want to?
No, that's great. I mean, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I will just follow up. And I kind of have my state water plan blinders on, but what you just said, I kind of heard sort of that same messaging from some of the other watershed councils, and that's what I do like about the state water plan. I think this is something tangible that folks can latch on to. I mean, it's not a super heavy lift that we're asking for, but it is something that he reported on, and this is what he participated in. And what I like about the Watershed Council in particular is that, you know, it's not just made up of state agencies, you know, we're getting some different perspectives. I think that's good. So, but yeah, no, I'm happy to wrap that up unless there's other questions or thoughts.
Thank you for running out today. For out there, innocent person.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you. Sorry I brought the wind. Was it windy yesterday? I think I brought
was
the
asked.
Okay, good. I
I
thought I brought the wind with us, but I'll send that survey link out to you all tomorrow. I'll also send out the slides and that follow up those QR codes. Look forward to your feedback.
Sounds good. Did you have any updates you wanted to give us, Peggy, on your attendance at the state level? And just
I
any
forgot my
comments?
notes, but I sent you that email with all those updates, but like I said, they can't remember because I
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No.
That's not on the agenda, but if you did want to take any time, talk about what's been going on there.
just basically they invited us to be active in this water plant, especially for our hours, for our areas to build on what our needs were and our things, and then to put a plan together. And I can't remember, Brett, it's been a while ago when I did send
That's
you an
fine.
email with a
Yeah,
lot of
and it was
updates
very
on it.
detailed. And I appreciate that.
Oh.
So Peggy's been representing us well at the state level meetings. And so we've been on the, we've been visual. I mean, like they know we're here. We exist. They don't know what we're exactly doing because we don't know exactly what we're doing. Okay.
We know we're here representing our areas,
That's correct.
our people that live here.
So the next item on the thing was discussion on council leadership, and not exactly sure how the bylaws go. What we annually discuss officers, correct?
I believe it's every 2 years.
Every 2 years, but it is time. We are there. I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and you know, I haven't really committed the time I needed to it. I understand that, but I'd like to back off. I'm still trying to retire. I'm not very good at it.
attended.
Yeah.
We never took a vote to allow you to
40
retire.
43 years, William. When you get 43 in, then you can.
I am 43 right now. Years old.
Oh, yeah, put it in perspective. Yeah, I've been doing this since you were born.
He's got a few years to go.
Well, now that we know how old I am, I'd like to give it somebody with a little more energy and desire to take it to do great things. And so I appreciate the opportunity, but I'd like to back out of the leadership of the council. And our current officers are myself, Jeff is vice chair, and Peggy is the secretary. And I'm not going to speak for them. I spoke with them a little bit, but very little, so they can speak for themselves and that. So we at least need to, if we can today, I haven't talked to those that aren't present today, and so I don't know if it's proper to just throw that on you and then elect somebody today, or if we should ask the wider council, you know, if they're interested.
When's the next meeting?
It won't be till fall.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the correct process is, but that's where I stand on it. You guys, what's your thoughts?
I like the structure where people move up. I'm just using this as an example. I don't know if Jeff would be willing to do so, but you would have your vice chairman become the chair of the council. And on a specific set of years, then they drop off and the other vice chair comes up. And so there's this natural progression of things rather than having.
Keeps things moving.
Yeah.
Without starting.
Well, the policies is for 2 years for the officer part, so it would be 2 years.
I mean, other than that, you just open it up and not ask for nominations, and that's fine because you have to still open it up for nominations for the vice chair. But I do like those organizations such as Uintah Water Users where there's a where there's a set progression of things through the executive council.
I'm not in favor of the railroad, Jeff, so it sounds like you're on.
Yeah, we're all about railroads around here, but
Yeah, but, probably ought to start on the next session.
on the next one, on the next one.
What's the process?
They didn't set a specific process. So as long as you hold a vote and vote for someone, it doesn't matter how you get to that. seat.
I was present or,
So
and it's on
I
the,
come
it's on,
here-
it's on the agenda.
It is.
without the knowledge that Brett was wanting to step back. So with that in mind, I would suggest that we make this an agenda item at our next meeting. And if you'd be willing to chair the next meeting and give us a chance to talk amongst ourselves and amongst those that weren't able to attend today and kind of come to a consensus. I think we would come up with a better solution.
I mean, I don't have a problem stepping in there. I would need a little bit of, probably some,
You need to get used to it.
I need to get
By
some
September, you'll be
grooming,
around
but,
and-
I agree with what Steve was saying, is I'd rather have a little bit more input from the group.
Agreed.
Everybody good with that? Okay,
Well, guess we gotta convince you, or you gotta,
well, I've just gotta do one more meeting and hold an election, right?
But then you're still gonna remain a member, right?
Retirement, I think he struggles with.
okay, semi-retirement.
Think he'll get really bored if he doesn't keep some things on his list.
Not the bread I know. Not the bread I know. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that.
Okay, what's this roundtable updates?
Oh, I threw that on there. Some councils like to just take a moment on every meeting and talk about what each person is up to. It's up to you guys, but since the idea of the council is to bring all the different organizations in the same room, it makes sense to make sure you're having a dialogue. It's up to you.
We'll open that up. Are there any new topics that anybody want to bring up?
Just, I guess, question and clarity, just for being more, like, way more involved. A lot of you guys that are in the water organizations or sit on water boards, where I don't really have different, but like the conference, the water conference that was in St. George and stuff, like what role or how or can participate or what is required that you are invited or can do. I just, that's a one way I want to try and get a little more knowledge of knowing what's going on. And so, but I don't know if that's acceptable for like this council to have people represented there, or how is that?
They even have a breakfast and, about Uintah water users.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was,
Acceptable, encouraged. I try to, on years, we have a little bit of extra budget to hold the breakfast and just any watershed councils who are there, people together and meet on the basins. Unfortunately, I've been told we don't have the money to pay for people's registrations to that conference, which makes it really hard. I wish that we did.
I don't think Jeff's asking for that, but maybe next year is the appropriate time, we can send out an email to this group and say the water conference is such and such a time, here's your registration.
Yeah.
You can self-register.
Yeah.
It's an open,
It's open meeting.
it's pretty well open invitation.
Okay.
It is.
So yeah, you'd certainly be welcome and appropriate.
You tell Water Users
Well, and I
Association.
think those are things that we could be more active in, is letting the people know that these water conferences are up and
Just an
Yeah.
email with the registration and an explanation that, yeah, this group is welcome.
because I think sometimes a lot of them don't know.
Yeah, I just knew because other people I knew were going, and so I was like, well, is that really where we fit in, or is it not? Or
definitely is.
Definitely.
That's
I don't really-
encouraged, yeah.
I don't sit like on an irrigation board, am I part of any of the water stuff, and so, but just the
We
information would be.
allow the politicians to come down to that, Jeff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it, what time of year is it?
Mark.
Cold enough for them to still keep their hands in the pocket?
It's just after the legislative session.
That's it. Yeah. Oh, that, I seen that was happening, but I didn't really know if that was proper protocol or what, if it was.
Absolutely. And I'll try to make sure to send that out to everyone that's here. Have the legislation.
Get involved.
Sure, don't need that.
Yeah. They're, that same organization also holds a water summit in October. It's much smaller than what it is. But it's very.
Where's it located at?
It changes. The last few years has been at the Davis Convention Center.
That's different than the UACD one that they have in the fall then.
Yeah, it is different. Yeah, it's the Utah water users. They put on the workshop.
Day.
And
So maybe if you can send that information out as well.
Yeah, it would.
that's always
Yeah.
told.
I mean, anytime you have a council, the more visibility you can have is good. And then that also provides you opportunity to just visit with other people and I didn't think of that. You know, we should be looking at that. That's how you get ideas. It's not just.
Carly, another one that we should advertise is NWRA is having their summer meetings in Park City this year.
Tell me what that is.
That's the National Water Resources Association.
Okay.
It's the parent organization. Well, I guess Utah Water Users is a member of that larger national organization. And so their stuff is all over the West, but Carly Burton is our executive director.
Yeah.
And he's convinced him to come to Utah
Awesome.
for this summer meeting. I think it's in August.
Is that an open meeting as well?
Correct.
Awesome. Yeah, I will look into that and send that out.
But that would be a really good one.
Okay. Any other topics anyone wants to bring up? Okay. We will take a motion to adjourn this meeting and we'll reschedule. We'll not reschedule. We will schedule our next meeting for. Should we do it late August? So we have, is it gonna, do we need to meet some kind of deadline with it for the water plan or okay going in September?
Well, so the subcommittees, I'm hoping I'll be working with them a little bit closely, and I'm thinking with the survey results, we might be able to send that out as an email and just get feedback there. I mean, again, in a perfect world, next time around, that's what I would like to do is do the survey and then on the next meeting talk about it, but I don't think we have to work.
Yeah, we'll shoot for early September for context.
So just a question on subcommittees. How much time involvement do you think that will take someone?
I don't anticipate a lot of time. How many council members are on this? 20, 40-ish? So if everyone were to fill out the survey, it would just be sort of looking over those results and just saying, okay, these are kind of the general things. So I'm already hearing some things today, right? Energy and water, I'm sure agriculture are coming up. So just sort of that, I don't think that should take a lot of time. Maybe on that subcommittee, if they each take a couple of hours to get that with the survey results over, and then kind of talk within that subcommittee to just talk about what those themes are. And then, yeah, a meeting or two would be remotely just to talk about that. That way, I'm sure that I'm hearing the correct information so that Becca and I can start getting rolling on writing that section. I mean, I think over the next couple of months, I can't imagine it should take that much time. Total, I don't even know if it would be 10 hours. Public scoping would be even less. That's just, it sounds like we already maybe have secured a venue, but it would just be talking about what's a good day time. And just also some, and I think that can be done primarily. Well, maybe some of it's easier as a phone call or a virtual meet. I don't see that taking long. Other than coming also, I'm hoping that we'll have some representation from the Watershed Council at that point.
So if we could get a date that you're shooting for on a focus group meeting, so that we can start talking to some of these venues and see if they're
Okay. Yeah, and as far as a date, I'm fairly flexible. I was thinking that you all might have a good idea, just, you know, with public, what's a good time? You know, is August better or worse than September? You know, is July good? I mean,
Most boards and almost everything that associated with it, July. It's just
Busy.
but I don't know that it matters whether it's August or September.
yeah, there's never usually a really good time ever, right? So, but I can communicate that once we get this rolling with that subcommittee and the public working, and then we can identify some potential days and reach out.
So when all of the work's done on this and everything's all compiled in that, then because is everything going to be added to the plan, or is somebody going to pick and choose what can and cannot be added to the plan? What each entity comes up with. So how is that going to work?
I'm really hopeful that you all will be able to identify those themes again in those sort of three.
Well, but I
categories.
mean, when it goes on the state level, is the state going, are they going to determine what's going to actually be in the plan? So like we submit all of our stuff, is a lot of it going to be omitted out of the plan because their plan is this, or how is that going to work? Because sometimes you find that you submit a lot of stuff and it doesn't get put there. Yeah.
I mean, that's a valid question. You'll be working with me. I mean, my job is the state water plan. There could be some things that are brought up that, you know, just the politics of the world that we may have to sort of package carefully, but I'm not envisioning a lot of things that we would need to just outright cut and say, oh no, we can't talk about that. And that'll be a conversation. Then again, we'll be going back and forth, especially with this chapter 8, what's in the basin of going back and forth with you all, not with you all. Becca and I will write it. We'll hand it back over and say, hey, do you think we hit the mark? I mean, do you have something like an example of something you think that?
No, I just many times you see that you spend a lot of time putting stuff together, and it's like it's like, okay, we've had a meeting to say that you've had a say, but your say isn't going to be in the original document.
And that's not what I want. I mean, that's one of the big things with this first round. I mean, one of my concerns is just the timeline, but what I don't want to do is ask you all to invest time and effort in this, and then you see the plan and think they weren't even listening. And then when I come back to you for the next round, you're like, well, we don't really want to work with you. And that is not what I want. So I think that you all will be, I hope, happy with the process and kind of that back and forth that we'll do with you all. There'll probably be a little bit more back and forth with the basin chapter, but you will have the opportunity. We're hoping to have the first complete draft by the end of this year. So I would be turning that draft over to you all, probably more like January, February. We'll have that. We'll do sort of an internal sort of feeding it up and then hand it over to you all to take a look and provide your input there. But that is certainly not my hope, is to ask you all for your time and effort and feedback. And just, again, like, I really do not want to be the person to say what's important in this basin. I don't want that. I don't think that that's how we should be approaching this. And again, why I'm here and why I'm visiting with all of the councils, because we genuinely do want to get back.
Okay. Everybody good? Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Whatever I noticed, yes. Accepted.
So if it was out on the hill, you'd say, a non-contestable motion to adjourn.
Yeah. I don't dare